you've also mentioned content a few times.
Yeah.
And I'd be really interested to know like what type of content works, because I think probably again actually like a lot of brands are scared. Well, not scared. Scared's the wrong word. A lot of brands don't really go beyond the white papers, downloadable guides, webinars, which are all great. You know, assuming the content's good, they're all great formats. But I get the impression maybe you do it slightly differently. So what sort of content are we actually talking about?
So we do some of that. Obviously, brass tacks. You got your bread and butter kind of items. So we do. We've just started webinars and we have the white papers and all that. But we actually do a lot of paid and earned thought leadership as well, because we think that's really important. So a lot of articles that you might see in kind of like Canary Media, Forbes, all these kind of big utility trades are things that we would kind of, work with. But we also do really cool stuff like, I think I'm allowed to say this on here, but like we just did a big documentary, BBC Storyworks, about our zero bill homes.
Yeah.
So we did a small like 6-minute piece on a series that they did, which was really cool and kind of very unusual. We had, crews in kind of doing videos with various stakeholders and really just telling that story about zero bills and Kraken. And it was, a bit of a head scratcher for some people to be like, why would, like, is our target audience really watching BBC sort of stuff about businesses? And I'm like, well, it definitely gets the message across. And the thing is, you don't have to just use that content, in its traditional format, which might be, on, streaming on whichever platform it is, but we use it in our sales pitches, we use it in offices, we can
so
use it
much
in
credibility
events.
too.
There's so much
It's
credibility.
really cool.
And it's all about building trust and validating kind of how good your product is, because if you can really sort of show an impact that your product has had, then really the rest sells itself. And what better way to do that than to show it through customer testimonials or like real life examples where you're actually making a tangible difference to people's lives or on the environment.
I think it's really cool. I think I saw that video and it was a really good, interesting piece of content. And I know this is probably going to sound silly saying it out loud, but you can't often say that a piece of B2B content was a good watch.
Correct. No, exactly. It's not normally like you want to sit down. I think I want to watch a bit of B2B tonight. Never mind Netflix. No, that's not something that. But that's what we aspire to. I think everything has to be interesting. If you want to engage customers, whether that's consumer, whether that's B2B, like your content has to be interesting. And I think that is something that is often missed in the B2B space, is that there's an assumption that because you're you're marketing to businesses, that your content has to be of a certain ilk or certain seriousness, and look, all of that's valid, and you absolutely need to get across like the relevancy, what your product benefits are, how it's going to help that specific customer, and all the business cases. But that means you can still wrap it in a very interesting, unique manner, right?
And it can still look good.
It can still look good.
No, brilliant. And in terms of, if we dive into a couple of the weeds here, like with like specific channels and platforms, like are you putting money behind things like LinkedIn ads?
Yep.
What sort of, I guess, like paid channels do you run?
Yeah, I mean,
digital paid.
Most of our paid channels it is LinkedIn, and it's the more traditional like paid search and kind of content on through Google and all that good stuff. But we're doing we've done a couple of really good, and we're just sort of, it's nascent for us, but ABM campaigns.
Okay.
So that has actually been something that we've been sort of toying with, and really now have found kind of some learnings from our initial kind of foray into that space. But ABM is actually proving to be a really strategic and obviously important part of what we're doing. And so with there, we are sort of trying for other channels. We're using different data. So we've been working with something called 6 Sense Data, which is really helping us with the intent piece. And they actually have a platform where you can disseminate and distribute kind of all of that campaign material. So, but I'd say obviously with B2B, LinkedIn is our bread and butter. We don't really mess too much with like any of the like other social stuff, because it just doesn't make sense in terms of where our audience is making decisions about that kind of purchase.
No, that's really cool. And then with LinkedIn, is it mainly like where in the funnel does that sit? Are you looking for not necessarily leads, but like new contacts through email acquisition, or is it just traffic? Is it video views? Like, what sort of level?
Depends, actually. If we think about an ABM campaign, we actually have content in there for each stage of kind of like, we'll have your first hit, and then depending on how you engage with that, you may get another piece of content through LinkedIn, and then depending on that, you may actually get something else as well. So it really depends on which stage. But I think we do use it to generate leads, and then we also use it to nurture existing leads, and really kind of, again, it's about validation and really just distributing content to us. It's not as far and as wide a net as possible, but within our kind of target audience. So how you can build the audiences in LinkedIn, and so within that, often we're just trying to make sure that there's an understanding of kind of what we're up to and what we're doing in the industry. And then next level down would be actually sort of nurturing those leads and kind of getting more specific to kind of what we know their issues are.
Yeah, it's fascinating. With the ABM approach, I think LinkedIn's so good at that because the nature of how you can build audiences and match data and everything else. What we tend to find a lot is, depending on how big your ABM target list is, it can kind of squash the volume, which then therefore means LinkedIn struggles a little bit to optimize the delivery. And there's always a bit of a balance, but often that's a big change when you move to ABM, I think, is that the volume of traffic, the volume of everything that's happening within that account will reduce.
It's true.
However, you're getting in front of the right people.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important to balance the two. You can do ABM whilst also doing much kind of higher level campaigns through other channels, right? And I think that if we're doing ABM, but then we're also doing sort of sponsoring, big conferences and sort of getting in front of a more general audience in the industry, then we're hitting sort of both sides of it at the same time, which is really nice. So, brand awareness is especially at the beginning, you want to be building your brand, right? Especially when you're new, or you're just coming into market, or you launch in a new market or a new product. That's when brand awareness is key. But I think as we sort of become more mature and we're trying to scale, we want to be building that pipeline, and that's where the more strategic kind of direct approach, I think, is really, really important.
And it just ties directly into what the sales team are doing and what the sales activity is looking like,
and that's key,
which is the whole point. That's
the whole point of what we're doing. This is why we're here. Like, what is my role?
We are paid to generate business.
Yes, I mean, we're here to make Kraken famous, but mainly we're here to actually make it really, really simple for sales to close deals, to get leads and close deals, and make that process a lot smoother for them, and generate more interest. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Absolutely.